Welcome back to the Interviewing People CareerCast, featuring highlights from the full-length interview with Ian Rafferty, a misdemeanor investigator for the Hancock County Public Defender's Office. In the highlights, Ian shares about what he does, how he ended up in this position, and much more. So sit back, relax, and know you can always go back to watch our full interview if you'd like to learn more. Enjoy the show.
I always knew that I wanted to be in the criminal justice field. I just didn't know where I wanted to fit in there. I guess a big part of it was going to shadow day in 10th grade. And I went to the Findlay Police Department and I shadowed an officer there for the day. And that made me realize that I did not want to be a police officer. I didn't want to be a corrections officer or anything like that. I mean, I enjoyed the day. I learned a lot about the criminal justice system from that side. But at that point, I always knew that that really wasn't my thing. So there were other avenues I could go through in the criminal justice world. I just didn't know what they were at that point. So after graduating high school, I went to BGSU, decided I still want to stick with criminal justice, going through all those classes. And then when it became apparent to me was senior year at BGSU, you have to have an internship to graduate. I think you have to have 400 hours in the field. So I eventually got to the public defender's office. They took me in, and I was, I think, the first actual college intern they have. Normally they just have legal interns. So it was kind of different for them because I couldn't do any of the law things that they could normally do. So more on the investigative side of things. So I did that for my 400 hours. I mean, they liked what I did and everything. So they just hired me on after the fact. And then that's just kind of how I got my position now as misdemeanor investigator. The position was not there. There was one investigator in the office and she did all the courts. So common pleas court, juvenile court, municipal court, investigator for all of them. And she goes on vacation for 3 to 4 weeks every year. And then everyone else in the office kind of covers all her courts. So when she was gone on vacation, I just took the municipal court stuff and I just do non-drug related misdemeanors. So she does drug related misdemeanors because those could potentially turn into a felony in the future. So she just handles those. So when she came back from her vacation, I just kind of continued to do those. And then after my 400 hours, my internship were up, I graduated. They just said, hey, why don't you just stay here? And then here I am now. So I do a lot of intakes. So I see if people qualify for a public defender, and that's strictly on a financial basis. So they have to be not making a certain amount of money. I mean, there's a bunch of different stipulations that kind of go into it. So we have different charts and everything that we have to look at to see if people do financially qualify. And another thing is we can only represent people who have jailable offenses. So if you get a speeding ticket, you can't come over to us. And if it's your first one, we can't help you on that. So only jailable offenses. So I see if they qualify, and then if they do, so I'll get down all their past history, see if they're on probation, any other pending cases, and then I'll get their side of the story. So if somebody comes to us with a petty theft, so I'll get down all their information to see if there's what happened there and if there's any like co-defendants. So if someone else was with them at the time, because that could be a potential conflict in the future, because if two people charged with a petty theft on the same incident, we can't represent both. So because they're both being charged out of the same thing. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And then after that, the intake's kind of over. I'll do all the paperwork for it. I'll do different motions. So like if they come to us with a charge and they have a bench warrant, I'll do a motion to lift the bench warrant and I'll send that to the attorney for them to look over to see if they can send it over to the court to get that lifted. And then if they're in jail, we'll do hopefully a motion for an OR bond, which is own recognizance, basically trust the person to come back to court when they're supposed to be. So hopefully get them out of jail. And then another big thing that I do is kind of like read over police reports for the attorneys to see what all we can actually use there to help the client. And then I'll get surveillance videos from different incidents. So a lot of big things is like Walmart, I get their surveillance videos for petty thefts, just random videos from, I just had one there was a fight at a gas station, so I had to go over and get a copy of that from the detectives division at the Findlay Police Department. A lot of surveillance watching, and I do that for a lot of OVIs. So the state troopers, they have dash cams. So I'll get those from them, and then I'll review those, make sure that the trooper is doing what they're supposed to be doing. So when they do like the field sobriety test, like the follow the pen test with their finger or whatever, they have to be doing those a specific way. So I'll look at those and make sure that they're being compliant with those. So that's kind of the quick synopsis of what's going on there. I do quite a bit of writing, and I would say as a Learning Commons, like as a writing consultant there, it definitely did help me a lot. And even today, I do write a lot. I write motions for attorneys. They review them, send them over to the courts, and I do a lot of talking with clients, and I have to write everything down, shorthand, make sure it makes sense for me and the attorney and for the client at the end of the day. So definitely a lot of writing. Outside of law enforcement, I mean, you could be other types of investigators, private investigators, or work for any of the three-letter agencies like CIA, FBI, stuff like that. Or you could go into law and actually become an attorney. So that's what some people do. They either get like a political science degree or criminal justice, and then they go into law from there. Okay. So I mean, it kind of depends on what you want to do. There are a lot of options out there. It's just you kind of have to go out there, find the connections for them, and then pursue. Another big one is becoming a probation officer. So okay. That's what a lot of people do with criminal justice as well. I would say just having the rapport with everyone here at work. I mean, I work in a small office. There's 12 of us currently. Just building that rapport, and especially with the courts as well, like meeting with the judges when I was an intern, shadowing with everybody there, the attorneys, just meeting all those people, building those relationships. I mean, it's definitely helped. So I think a kind of a good example of kind of relationships and rapport is our attorneys. Like when you see on TV, like prosecutors and defense attorneys, you see them screaming at each other and everything, like they hate each other. Here in Findlay, that's not the reality. I mean, they're friends. They work close together. I mean, because you kind of have to, because we want to get the best deal and recommendation for our client. And if you're yelling and screaming at the prosecutor, you're probably not going to get a good deal. So, right. Of course, the facts of the case play a major role in that. But just having that rapport with the person does go a long way as well. Okay. And that could also open future opportunities down the road if you did want to think about changing careers or anything like that. So it's always nice to go out there and connect. It just feels really good to get people out of jail, I'd say. I mean, sometimes it's easier than other times. It just depends on like why they're in jail. Writing up different types of motions with reasonings for them to get out of jail. I mean, that's always nice at the end of the day, be like, hey, I got 3 or 4 people out of jail. That's always a good feeling. And just seeing the resolution of the case, because I mostly deal with them in the beginning and middle of the case, and then the attorney deals with them at the end. So, I mean, it's also rewarding seeing that I help them get to that point. Don't procrastinate as much. I would say always be prepared. So that's one of the biggest things. We're kind of slower right now because of COVID. Before, my schedule would be jam packed, and I do 30-minute increments for my intakes, and I could have like 4 to 6 back to back. And it might not take the whole 30 minutes, but I need to be prepared to, if it does go over that time. So I try to fill out my forms as much as possible, just so I am prepared there and I'm not slacking. I'm not having a buildup of clients who are waiting at the door or anything like that and then getting overwhelmed that way. I mean, it helps me keep focused. So definitely be very prepared, and don't procrastinate. So that's probably my advice to my past self.
Thank you for watching this episode showing highlights of the latest Interviewing People career cast with Ian Rafferty. And to make sure your Mondays are better than ever, subscribe so you can hear more career stories from those who are actually doing the work. Thank you for watching. And as always, remember that the best part about Mondays is interviewing people.